Hi there, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another card making video tutorial. Today I have Step It Up with Premade die cuts featuring the Simon Says stamp, September 2023 card kit called Be Happy. I absolutely love the beautiful paper rose Be Happy die cut elements in the kit as well as the pattern paper, and I thought it would be fun to show some ideas for using these pre-made elements to create fun cards. So my cards all center around those Be Happy die cut elements, as well as some of the pattern papers. We're also going to be using the stamp set included in the kit, which is called Be Happy 6x8 clear stamp set. The Scripty Hello die, pardon me. We'll also be using some of the foam adhesive included in the kit, the black glossy cardstock and white cardstock. To start, I am popping out some of the elements that I think I will be using on my cards. Some of these are going to make it onto the finished card design, but maybe not all of them. When I have pre-mades in a kit, I always like to kind of see what I have and let those ideas start kind of, marinating, if you will, while I think how I want to group them together. And originally I kind of thought I might go for my standard, like line them up in a row, almost like making a countertop or something to that effect. And I wasn't really feeling it for this, but I knew that I had recently used the Spellbinders notched frame dies, and I thought dividing up some of these elements into quadrants for the first card might be fun. So that is what we are going to do on card number 1. But it sometimes takes a little bit of work to kind of see the elements and see what direction the design is going to take you. On my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel of smooth white cardstock, I'm going to spritz this with Flickering Candle Distress Mica stain first. I love this color, and I'm definitely keeping with the sunflower theme of the cards with my spray choice color. So I've spritzed my background. I've done pretty much all over, but I held it pretty far up because I don't want complete coverage. I want it to have some bigger splatters as well as that mist. Then we're going to let that dry while we work on creating our 4 quadrants. I'm going to choose one of the smaller size notched frame dies from Spellbinders and die cut that 4 times from the honeycomb pattern paper included in the kit. When I am designing a card like this, I love to find ways to elevate the design. So obviously in this case, we've added some mica stain. We're going to add a few little embellishments, and foam adhesive is always one of those things that I love to incorporate into a pre-made die cuts or pattern paper type of card because it really lends itself to dressing it up. So while these cards may not have taken a long time to create, they look like they did. I love pre-mades for this, and I also love card kits for this. Now, out of the September card kit, I'm sharing 4 cards in today's video. I also will have 4 cards in an upcoming Simon Says stamp video on their YouTube channel where I use the kit to make 4 more designs. And that is just touching on the surface of all the things you can make. I have lots of die cuts. I have some pattern paper and other elements from the kit left, so you could really make way more cards than what I'm showing here. It is such a great value and a great way to get more kits in your stash. With the card kit each month, my goal is to use mostly the card kit and then incorporate a few tools and inks and things from my stash to complete the cards. So I did pull some dies. The Spellbinders notch die is one. I will also be using a Papertrey ink die here in a little bit. And I think other than that, we're going to use some we use the Distress Mica stain, and then I'll have a few pretty pink Posh pearls and some Trinity Stamps clay hearts. Other than that, the supplies come from the kit. The pattern paper comes from the kit. The die cuts come from the kit. I love seeing what I can mix and match together to make really beautiful designs. Now, some of these pre-made die cut elements are bigger than others. This one that I just assembled right here has kind of a collage, if you will, of multiple elements. We have the honey jar, the honey dipper, a little daisy, and then a bee. And I grouped those together to kind of create a little scene or collage grouping, almost considering each quadrant of this card its own little scene. Two of the other notched frames that I'm using on this card have much bigger elements, so they're not really going to have, like, maybe one, I think I incorporated some leaves on the other one out the side, but they're not going to have multiple die cut elements. And then the last quadrant is saved for our sentiment, and I will add a little bumblebee up there to balance it all out. I'm using those foam adhesive squares from the kit for my card, and I am being really generous with how much foam I'm using, and you will notice that I'm still getting lots, or I still have lots left over even when this is finished. I love the Simon Says Stamp foam squares. I use them on everything. Now, I do think the ones included in the kit are the lower profile, which is fantastic because I'm using the Simon Says Stamp foam tape on the back of my notched frame to pop that up as well. So it has quite a bit of foam already. I love that there is the option for the lower profile foam squares, so it pops it up, but it doesn't add so much dimension. We have two more of our frames left. This is the second floral grouping. So I kind of have my floral vase with the sunflowers, and then I've got these stacked boxes with sunflowers. On this one, I wanted to incorporate one of the green leafy images from the die cuts, and I'm going to tuck it along the left side where it slightly overhangs the frame. Something I love to do when I am doing a card that has quadrants, whether we're lining like 3 or 4 up going horizontally, or we're doing something like this where there's just multiple little scenes within a single card. And this is a great tip, no matter if you are maybe even stamping your own images or using pre-mades, to kind of break it down. If you want to use multiple things that maybe don't go together on the surface, but you want to use all of them on a single card, break them into individual scenes. Now, I did trim up some of that green leafy image. You can see it there on my desk because it wouldn't fit back behind because I'd already added the foam. That's another tip that I always like to share. But I love greenery. It softens things a little bit, and have some of your elements overhang the other little mini scenes. So the big vase slightly overhangs. It's the biggest one, pre-made die cut I use, so it hangs over the edge of the frame. The green leafy area on that bottom right, it hangs over a little bit as well. And then the bumblebee will be popped up in the sentiment frame, and it also will kind of hang off the edge just a tiny little bit. I've lined up my sentiment from the Be Happy stamp set in the center of my notched frame pretty much, leaving a little room for some decoration down below and the bumblebee up high. And I'm stamping this with some black ink right on the pattern paper. I love Today You're the Queen Bee, happy birthday. What a fun sentiment. And the black ties in really nicely to all of the yellow I think that we're using here, and that sunflower bee theme. Now we're going to finish this up. Originally, I kind of kept trying to add flowers to this, and ultimately it just was too overwhelming, and I opted to stick with just the bumblebee and then a little trio of black clay hearts. It's always good. Lay things out, look at it, take a step back if you need to, reevaluate, and often remove something. Remove it and see if your eye has a little bit more room to rest. That is very telling that maybe you need to remove something from your card. We already have lots of florals going on, and I don't need to try to force adding more. I can always use those on another card. Then we're going to attach all of our frames to our card right over the background. And what I love about distress mica stains or any distress sprays that you might have out there, or any kind of spray in general really, is that you can take a solid piece of cardstock, give it a little spritz, and it ends up almost looking like a pattern paper, a very subtle pattern paper that anything will work on. And it's so much showier than what a white background would have been for this card. If I had left my background panel white or even gone with a solid yellow, it really would have washed out the very faint yellow honeycomb design of the pattern paper. But with that little bit of texture in the background, it really makes all of our little framed up sections pop. And here's me still trying to add flowers to this card. Give it up, Nichol. Now I'm going to add my little black hearts, and I love it. I think this is just perfect. Some little yellow pearls from Pretty Pink Posh are going to be added to a couple of the big sunflowers, and then our bottom left frame that has all of the little collage of goodies in it. And this card is all finished, and we have finished our first design using pre-made cards. Now, even though all of these cards use a lot of the same components, every single one of them is different than the other. And I think that's fun as well. If you are not a big fan of mass producing the same card, this is a great way to utilize a card kit and get multiple different designs that all still work together beautifully. Maybe you want to make a card set for a friend or family member as a gift. It would be perfect. So the next card we're going to create is going to be another kind of honeycomb type background, but this time we'll be using the black pattern paper in the kit. And I wanted to see if the Distress Mica stain would work on a darker background, and I think it shows it's going to give a little splatter. It's definitely not as showy, but the bigger splatters, especially when tipped correctly in the light, are going to show up. It's just going to distress it a little. I kind of kept with the same theme of the first card with using a die cut frame of some sort, but I'm going to go to a different set for this, and this is from a recent Papertrey ink die release. And I could have used one of the larger notched frames from the Spellbinders set as well, but I kind of liked the shape of this one. I die cut one of the pattern papers, one of the Be Happy pattern papers from Paper Rose that are included in the September kit, and I'm going to start with stamping my sentiment this time right in the center of that die cut with the Sending Sunshine and Brighter Days. Now, what inspired this card is in the pre-made pattern or die cut elements, pardon me, there is a half sunflower, and even you can kind of see it there on the screen. Even though there is that half sunflower, I took the full sunflower and cut it in half so that I could separate it and place part of it up top and part of it at the bottom with the sentiment in the center, so it kind of frames up the sentiment, if you will. Now this one is going to feature that one sunflower and then one piece of greenery. There's only 2 single greenery pieces in the die cut elements, and I'm going to show how I kind of cut this apart and manipulate it to work so that I can add what looks like a couple of sprigs to my card. I'm utilizing the foam adhesive squares from the kit again, popping up the top part of the sunflower first with my little bee. I did incorporate a bee as well. And then we're going to pop up the bottom part and tuck our greenery underneath the edge. Now, since part of it will be tucked underneath and won't be seen anyway, I'm going to figure out where to cut it apart, and I'm going to cut that little piece that would be hidden, and I'm going to use that then for a second piece of greenery. I really love greenery for things like this. I feel like it kind of just softens everything a little bit. and I didn't want to go use something else. Now you totally could. Maybe you have some die cut leaves in your stash and you want to die cut those or color some and die cut them and add them. I think that would be really pretty too. So we'll figure out where this is going to go, and then I'll cut down my background. I love the pattern papers for this. I use two different ones, one to die cut my frame, and then of course that black honeycomb is going to be the background, trimmed to 4 by 5 1/4. And then spritzed with the Flickering Candle Distress Mica Stain. I just kept with that. I used that on 3 of the 4 cards that I'm sharing today. And I'm going to speed up my video just a bit and figure out how I want to trim apart that leaf. There, I've got it trimmed down. I think that looks good. We're going to glue that right to the card. And you can see that I did my decorative panel first, and then I worked on the background. We'll trim this again, 4 by 5 1/4. I've got my splatter box and I'm just going to spritz it. You can kind of see a little bit there, but it's the big drops that I really like. And if you want to get big drops and not so much a spray, you can always dip a paintbrush in and tap that onto your cardstock. I am going to put foam adhesive on the back and pop that onto my panel. We'll also take some black clay hearts. I utilize these, I think, on all of my cards. And we're going to place one kind of in the die cut areas of this frame from Papertrey ink. I loved that it kind of has a decorative design to it. And so we're just going to add to that with these little hearts. I'll add a couple of yellow pearls to the center of the top part of the sunflower and place this on a white top fold card base, which of course will give us a nice white border all the way around, and our card will be all finished. We're ready for card number 3. One of the pattern papers in the kit from Paper Rose Be Happy has kind of a pre-made scene already on it. And I thought it was really a very pretty design. And I wanted to figure out a way to utilize this to create a card background. So I'm going to trim a section of it. I'm going to trim it to 4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm going to take a stripe pattern paper and we are going to use that down one side just to kind of give it a little added interest is my thinking. So here's that beautiful pattern paper. We'll add a stamped sentiment, a few of the pre-made die cuts, and then a couple of embellishments. Really, really easy. This is probably the easiest card that I'm creating today. So I've got my pattern papers. I'm going to figure out my die cuts. I am going to utilize that half sunflower, one of the other little sunflowers, and a bumblebee, and we're going to use all of those up near the top. We're going to use another bumblebee kind of down near the pre-printed design, and then add the thank you so very much sentiment stamped directly onto our card background. I'm going to create my grouping up here at the top. We're going to pop up the large sunflower and the bumblebee with the foam adhesive squares, but glue the smaller sunflower there that you can see on the screen right down in place. If you wanted, you could even spritz this background with a little bit of the Flickering Candle. But like I said, I didn't use it on this card. On the other 3 I did, but I opted not to use it for this one. I'm going to speed up the video just a tad because it's a lot of attaching, not a lot of doing. It's just a lot of pre-made elements and things. We're going to stamp that greeting. I'm just snipping off anything hanging off the top of my card. This is the entire front of an A2 size card. I stamped so thank you very much. It works perfectly right there. Add some little pearls. And then of course we will add our little heart and everything. I love the Simon Says Stamp triangle trays for containing and holding on to all of my pearls. Now I have some leftover pattern papers from previous cards. I went ahead and spritzed a 4 1/4 by 4 by 5 1/4 panel of white cardstock with the Flickering Candle Distress Mica stain. And those leftover pieces from previous cards I shared here in this video layered together perfectly to create a little border down along the bottom edge of this design. Now this card only features one of the pre-made die cuts. I felt like simpler was better. We're going to use this little bouquet of daisies. We'll use the Scripty Hello die cut plus a greeting from the Be Happy stamp set. Once I have my pattern papers where I want them to go on the background, I will stamp Sending Love and Sunshine right above the pattern papers here on the background. And again, we're going to use the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, pardon me. I don't want to trim off the flowers in this case. I like that they hang off the edge of the panel. This panel is slightly smaller than A2 sized, meaning that they still will be within the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch footprint of our card. I'm going to pop those up with foam adhesive as well. And this is where the splatter from the Distress Mica stain really almost gives us that third pattern paper for our card. I'm adding little bits of glue to the back of the Scripty Hello die cut before popping it in place right above Sending Love. And I love how that looks paired together. And the glossy black cardstock is just so pretty. I've been using it on everything lately and absolutely love it. Foam on the back of our die cut, and of course you can see it's just going to fit perfectly, framing up our greeting. We're going to finish with a scattering of those pretty pink Posh yellow pearls and a black clay heart before placing the entire card panel on a white top fold card base. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this set of 4 cards featuring the Simon Says Stamp September 2023 card kit called Be Happy. I hope this video has inspired you to maybe look at the pattern paper or pre-made die cut elements that you have in your stash and create some cards with things you either have on hand or with this brand new kit. The supplies I use to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There is exclusive content, information, and behind the scenes content. Top tier members will receive a handmade birthday card during your birthday month, access to D-Stash, and monthly exclusive lives, plus so much more. We would love to have you join our growing community. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and don't forget to click the notification bell to always be notified when there is a new video or I go live. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you again next time.